Hi, and welcome to the Saturday Night Sleepover podcast. I'm your host, Charlie, and I started this podcast because I'm good at two things. One, making friends, and two, telling stories. So you get to participate in that by listening. Welcome to the sleepover. It's Saturday night. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of Saturday Night Sleepover. I'm your host, Charlie, and today is the News Goes Girl Talk segment with Elena.
Yes, I'm so happy to be here again.
Yay! Should we jump straight into it?
Yeah, we're gonna go straight into money talk.
Okay. So I think we kind of had a conversation and I think we're going to try out doing like a economy check-in, kind of a vibe every time. Cause it seems like every time we, record an episode, there's something about the economy. So we're just going to call it the economy check-in. And this time we're going to start out talking about Forever 21. It's going to be closing. All remaining 350 locations will be shut down by May 1st. However, the article I read said that most of them are actually probably going to be shut down by April 1st. So this has been a longer bankruptcy process than other companies that have been shut down in the past year, because they first filed for bankruptcy in 2019 and they've tried to keep their doors open since then. And so I was thinking about this as like the stores that have been closing, and like in the perspective of like, what does that mean about the millennial dollar? Because I feel like we kind of were Forever 21 shoppers, like in high school, and then moved on to other stores or maybe online platforms. And maybe that leads into why stores like this are closing.
So
So,
something interesting with the Forever 21 closing was we had gone to the mall and I saw that it was closing. Like, everything needs to go, 20 to 50%
yeah.
off. And so I like recorded that and I posted it on Instagram, and everybody was like confused because this news had not been out yet that Forever
Yeah.
21 was closing at all of their stores. And not just that, but the mall in Fayetteville has very limited, like, it's like cheap clothes that you can
Yeah.
buy whenever you're going to go out,
Mm-hmm.
or just do anything. So a lot of people were surprised by this. And we've but then I had seen a TikTok about like how the bubble is different this time around for the recession, which is all
Mm-hmm.
of these big stores, and
Yeah.
how people have been putting the different types of puts on these stores, like these people are not going to be making money, so they're voting against them, kind of like the GameStop stuff that we had seen earlier. But this ties back to like we've reported already on
Joanne's.
Joanne's, Party City, uh, and yeah, now Forever 21. And a lot of the things too were like, people were saying Forever 21, just the way that they were making their clothing just really wasn't cool to wear, right? Like you'd have a cute shirt, but then they'd put, something,
Yes. Something weird on
yeah,
it.
something weird on it. So it's just kind of like people weren't buying a lot of whatever they were selling. Um,
Probably because we have access to whatever selection we want, so we can style ourselves the way we want just at the click of a button.
yeah. Yeah. And also kind of makes me wonder like the rise of Sheen.
Yeah.
Um, I had, I want to say it was the Atlantic had reported that the average consumer for Sheen was like, a woman making like $55,000 or more a year, single, and just kind of just spending this random money on
Mm-hmm.
Sheen and stuff like that. Um, so we'll see. Hopefully, the next time we don't have another store closing, but
I know. Hopefully our economy check-in is more positive and less closing everything.
yeah, everything's closing. We're just gonna be left with Walmart.
Walmart and Amazon. Let's go.
um, okay. the price of eggs are supposed to be
Yes,
dropping pretty soon.
hopefully.
Yeah, as of today, Friday, March 21st, the Trump administration announced that the US will be importing eggs from South Korea and Turkey to help with the current egg shortage.
I thought it was just kind of like punny that we're getting eggs from Turkey,
Chicken
like
eggs?
turkey eggs.
Yeah, turkey. Um, and a lot of this was kind of caused from the spread. It's supposed to combat the spread of the avian flu that, could potentially hit some flocks. So farmers have had to kill just millions, hundreds of thousands. We're looking at we've lost millions of eggs this year,
Yeah.
just killing egg-laying chickens. And the Trump administration said that they are also working to with other countries, but they haven't name dropped them just yet to help with this egg shortage that we are facing, and that within the next couple months we will be back to normal, and we won't be having these high prices on eggs. Um, but since January of this year, there has been a 53% increase in egg prices from just January of last year, according to
Wow.
USDA. Yeah. So,
Well, I mean, there's probably at least some percentage increase of
yeah.
everything from last year. Like, have you seen the videos where they're like, I did the same Walmart order from a year ago and it was $200 and now it's $400.
Hmm.
It's probably some percentage of that is just in general
Yeah.
inflation, but probably also another large portion is because of avian flu.
And this last Walmart order that I did, yeah, those prices have definitely gone up. The last two orders I've done, I've kind of noticed like, okay, everything is either $5 or more.
Yeah,
And then like onion was a little bit higher than what it typically was. It's like,
yeah.
why is this onion so expensive?
I, I always talk to Caitlin about this, and she's always like, "We're just gonna all like start growing our own stuff and reusing things." And she's always talking about stuff like that. And I'm always trying to convince everybody that we want to start a
Yeah.
commune.
We're just gonna get rid of everything and just start these little communes all around.
Well, did you know that like the first supermarket wasn't opened until like 1930 or something
Yeah.
like that? Before that, everybody just grew their own
Yep.
food.
Yep. That's true.
Kind of crazy.
And our last part for this economy check-in, we are talking about Tesla.
Hmm.
So
Still more Elon Musk.
we always got to talk about Elon. Come on. But this is more about his company and how arsonists have been setting Tesla cars on fire at dealerships and repair areas. Kansas City, Missouri, and Las Vegas have been hit by these arsonists, who have thrown Molotov cocktails into the cars, have even shot at the buildings, and have vandalized buildings as well, putting things like resist and spelling Elon's name on there. So
Wow.
um, it's just kind of interesting because a lot of the reason for this is Elon Musk's role in the government, and people are just attacking Tesla. That people have been putting Nazi swastikas on Teslas, and around the world they have been vandalizing Teslas in general. So people have even been returning their cars in
Wow.
protest. So and his stocks have been tanking. Um,
That is scary.
yeah. So
Because they've made quite a market for electric cars in America, and like I don't know about you, but around here, I see like Tesla trucks all the time. So
yeah, there's a couple around here of the Cybertrucks, and then a couple Teslas here and there. Tesla, I mean, they have been in the U.S. market for a good while, and this kind of like the push towards all those electric cars that have been made was, I feel like Tesla was a major shift in that.
yeah,
Um, so it is. It's interesting to see this kind of switch now. And
Hmm. And how it, well, what I just can't ever imagine being angry enough at a person I've never met to like deface or damage something that he like didn't even make like with his own hands, you
yeah,
know? Like
and it's also like Musk said all of these crazy things after he made Tesla.
yeah,
So it's kind of like just because you own a Tesla doesn't mean that you agree with what Musk is
yeah.
saying, especially if you've had it for 5 plus years.
Hmm.
Um, but along with Tesla, they're they have issued their eighth recall on the
Yeah.
Cybertrucks.
Yeah. The thing I saw said that it was like there's parts of it that are just liable to fall off.
Yeah, the glue, they used the
Hmm.
wrong glue. But the Cybertruck came out. Let's see,
I feel like it was like
late
2 years ago.
2023.
Yeah.
So they have not been out in the market for that long. I feel like it's normal for cars to have recalls,
Hmm.
but eight recalls within 2 years, less than 2 years, um, that's pretty crazy.
It is pretty crazy, but they do also that. The other thing is the in the media that I always see, they claim to be like bullet resistant and
No, you have
can drive through a bomb and stuff, and I'm
to
like,
pay
but people are
extra for
catching them
that.
on fire.
You have to pay extra for the bulletproofness. They're not all
Excuse
bulletproof.
me. Oh, really? I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
you have to pay extra. They do
Hmm.
the add-ons. They do those add-ons
Hmm.
on there. But we'll see. We'll see.
That's crazy.
That's our
I didn't realize that.
Elon Musk check-in. Unfortunately, it's not looking good for him right now. But
And people stop vandalizing Cybertrucks. I think they're ugly too, but I don't want to blow them up or to catch them on fire.
yeah, then
So the next thing we want to report on is that Department of Education. So Trump he signed an executive order. I think it was yesterday, March 20. Oh, we didn't do the thing where we say, hey, it is March 21st, and this is what we know right now. It'll come out March 22nd. So this episode will come out tomorrow. But I think yesterday, March 20th, is when he signed the executive order to shut down the Department of Education. So when we were talking about the Trump picks forever ago, or it feels like forever ago, we talked about how the pick for the Department of Education was Linda McMahon, which was formerly the WWE owner. In the executive order, it states that the Secretary of Education, Linda McMahon, should take all legal necessary steps to f- facilitate the closure of the Department of Education. So the quote that we have here is that closing the Department of Education would provide children and their families with the opportunity to escape a system that is failing them. Today, American reading and math scores are near historical lows, and this year's National Assessment of Educational Progress showed that 70% of eighth graders were below proficient in reading, and
70%.
70% 72% were below proficient in math, and federal education bureaucracy is not working. I think that's end quote. But, uh, well, I think a huge chunk of that reason is because we had to take like 2 years off of education
Yeah.
for a pandemic, probably.
Just knowing that 70% of eighth graders are below proficient is crazy. I can't even.
Those are 14-year-olds.
Yeah. And, something interesting in the executive order that the Trump administration points out is that the Department of Education did not exist until 1979. Um, so it's still like a relatively new department that was created by Congress. So through this executive order, Congress will have to vote on whether or not they will eliminate the Department of Education. Now,
Yes.
yeah.
So it's got to go through the
Hmm.
House.
And, you know, it It was interesting to dive into this because whenever you hear Department of Education, you kind of figure it has to deal with maybe like the curriculum that you learn about, especially since they're putting out test scores. But they do not deal with curriculum at all.
Yeah.
What they deal with instead are FAFSA, so like student loans. All your student loan
Yeah.
payments go to them. They so they're in charge of all of that. They're also in charge of Title One, which is what helps fund areas that have low achieving students with high poverty rates. So rural areas typically, and also making sure that disabled students have all the things that they need to succeed is what the Department of Education does. So what they're wanting to do is just give these main functions to the states so that states have the power to create what is needed in their areas.
Yeah.
So, it's it'll be interesting to see how everything happens. I feel like Arkansas is one of a couple states, handful of states that have already taken matters into their own hands by creating educational freedom accounts, which are basically vouchers if students want to take a different route than public education. Um,
Yeah.
so, in a way, Arkansas is already kind of making these changes. A lot of what the uh, Trump administration was quoting were things like critical race theory and DEI, and having a lot of um, immigrants who are here illegally, like having their students in the school system is also messing things up. Whether or not that's true or not, but that is what the Trump administration has been saying in order to kind of try to
Push
eliminate.
this
Yeah,
agenda.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So Trump said that the things that the Department of Education takes care of, they will still be funding those things because they legally have to. Those things are protected.
Yeah.
Um, but student loans, they are wanting to change that to a more like money, like the Treasury um,
Okay.
focus thing, because they're kind of like, well, the Department of Education isn't a bank, I believe is
Mm-hmm.
what it says in this executive order. Um, it's the Department of Education. Why are they handling all of the trillions of dollars of debt that people owe?
When we first started talking about this, and you were like, "It's going to get rid of it," it's in charge of the student loans. I was like, maybe this is the way we just get rid of student loans in general,
People were saying like, so if we get rid of the Department of Education, no more student loans.
right? I'm here for it.
But no, they're talking about moving the student loans to someone else.
Boo! And that's the Treasury, the same people who like take our tax
We could
money or
just tell them
something.
to
I don't
print more
know.
money.
Yeah, exactly. Just print it and pay off all of our student loans. That'd be great.
Yeah. um, so we we I don't remember if we had did we speak about the Department of Education disappearing whenever we first did um, the Trump appointees.
No.
Okay, so yeah, this is we'll definitely give an update on this as it goes on. A lot of the things that the Trump administration has done has faced backlash in the sense of judges saying, "Hey, actually, we can't do this." But this one looks like they're doing it the right way, and it looks like it could actually go through.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like the lawyers are checking everything and making sure that like we're still going to pay for the things that we legally have to pay for.
Hmm.
Um, but
And some changes
I,
that they've already gone through is they've already cut staff in half, and they have already said that there will be less resources available for people through the Department of Education. So maybe if schools need to reach out about anything about funding and stuff, those things might kind of be harder to go through with.
yeah. Well, that's the Department of Education.
I'm gonna have to
it-
sit back.
Look up and see what your state is doing if you're interested in following up on it. Speaking of states and different bills that are going on in the state is we wanted to focus on one happening in Arkansas right now. So the two that we're focusing on today are HB 1754 and SB 456. So HB 1754 is called the Private Property Protection Act, and it essentially, I went and I read the Senate one. I read most of the House bill too, but the way I understood it is that it is like bringing back um, a lot of the power from local entities like cities, and taking it away from things like zoning, and basically getting rid of zoning.
Yeah.
So you could basically do whatever you want on your private property, as long as it is not um, like classified as harmful to the health of the people around you. So what does that mean? It is it does things like you won't be able to establish protections such as like trees and historic preservation and things like that. Those things might be in uh, like jeopardy of being not in the city's control anymore. So um, it's gonna, if it passes, it hasn't passed yet in both sides, but it may change the way building permits and codes and zoning and changing all the things and building and growing looks in the state of Arkansas. And it is sponsored by Arkansas State House Representative Justin Gonzalez, and he's from District 89 or Okolona. So that's the bullet points I have for it. What do you think about the Private Property Protection Act?
Yeah, so this one was interesting because, it, yeah, cities no longer have the power that they are used to. And there's a really important law in Fayetteville, well, important to some, right? About trees out here. Whenever it comes to building something new, expanding, or anything like that, you have to take into account the trees. And if there's a tree that's like over 50 years old, then you cannot build there if you're going to have to remove that tree. Recently, Fayetteville High School, they need more parking, so they were wanting to create a parking garage
Mm-hmm.
where they had zoned the area for the parking garage right next to the school. There was about maybe two or three very old trees that had been there, and people protested and cited the law that we have in place here in the city, and it ended up they're still going to build the parking garage because the trees that were there, even though they're old, had some sort of like is it
Disease or
yeah,
something.
yes, a disease. I was going to say an infection. um, but they were basically like dead and dying and couldn't grow anymore. So
Mm-hmm.
they were able to get through that.
Well, there's all kinds of codes and ordinances and all sorts of stuff that all different cities, depending on where you live and what somebody thought was a good idea at one point in time. Like, for example, like the size of parking spaces, or the size of landscape buffers, or the size of um, like if you're allowed to or not allowed to put in a fence or a shed or whatever at your house. There are all different kinds of rules
Well,
that either prohibit you or like enable you to do things, and this would potentially change the way that looks
the
in.
Costco that was supposed to be built out here in Lowell didn't because of zoning stuff. The lights that were going to be put up were going to da 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 da. It was against
Yep.
their code over there. Was how they ended up telling Costco.
Yeah, that's what they say, but I feel like culturally we all know that Walmart didn't want them there.
Yeah. And something very, very, very important about this bill is that it could eliminate the historic preservation
Yeah.
that we have in cities right now. Um, so sometimes you don't realize, like, I know here we have the Trail of Tears
Yeah.
that goes through certain areas, and right now it's just a sign. It's just a sign. But um, you there's also, like, in downtown areas, there's areas that you can't really mess with, and because you can't take down this house. Downtown areas, especially, all the old homes that are there, you have to be careful how you remodel them. So those type of
Hmm.
things will be out the window if this passes. And that saddens me, because it's like losing a part of that town, no matter where it is. So, and I imagine for a city, it's kind of scary because sometimes people have crazy ideas, like building tunnels under their home.
Yeah, or another thing is like it doesn't one thing that cities do often is they'll have like a future land use map that designates what kinds of things should go next to each other. So this should be the industrial part of town. This should be the residential part of town. This should be the commercial part of town. Um, if we don't have zoning to regulate those things, then you might get like a factory in your neighborhood,
Yeah.
and that factory might like spill off chemicals into the air or something that might be harmful to residents of the neighborhood.
So that brings up an interesting point in Arkansas, and this has made some national news here and there. Franklin County, they're looking at building a like 3,000 bed jail,
Mhm.
and
Oh yeah,
right now, what there's a native tribe that's claiming that it's like a historic area. So I want to say it could be a burial site. Um,
yeah.
I just read this recently. So, those type of things. And the people in Franklin County are very, very, very upset because these are people who own farmland. They've been there generations. And all of a sudden, the governor literally just said, we're building a jail here, a prison.
Yeah.
So they don't want that. And these type of things make it easier for, you know, other bigger things to happen, because at the end of the day, it's benefits corporations more than anyone
Hmm.
else.
Yeah.
Um, and this kind of backpacks on to the Senate Bill 456, which was introduced by Senator Jim Petty of Van Buren, and it is called the Act to Create the Home Opportunities Made Easier Act. This makes it easier for people to build homes out here. There's lots of regulations put in place to kind of stop 20 apartment complexes to be uh, built right next to each other, right? Or
Hmm.
all these things, right? We like to make sure that we have mixed incomes in certain areas where you have schools, so that way you have a diverse, set of kids going there, or that a public school isn't getting too much funding from all the property taxes, because that's how a public school gets its funding. So those type of things. Changing the definitions of kind of like a duplex, a quadplex, to make it easier for people to live in a place, and also changing um, how long people can stay in some places. Like you could call it part-time dwelling, full-time dwelling, on how you live there. And I think the most interesting thing that caught my eye in this bill was mobile tiny house. So a mobile tiny house includes, let me pull this up so I do not get this wrong. Um, um, oh, it says anything that's under 500 square feet, and it's on wheels, and it could include a car, a truck, an SUV. Uh, so people can legally live in their cars. And the reason why um, Mr. Jim Petty of Van Buren introduced this was in this bill. He says working families are finding it increasingly difficult to purchase or rent a home. And so many moderate income workers are working 2 or 3 jobs to meet their monthly housing expenses. The gap between those who can afford a home and those who cannot is widening at an alarming rate, and affordable rental housing is in short supply. So,
Yep.
by introduce, and we all know it's very hard out there. These prices haven't gone down. Yeah.
Nope.
These interest rates have,
We all pay rent too.
like, yeah, it's just like rent just keeps going up, and it's very hard, especially in Northwest Arkansas, uh,
Yeah.
where people are moving here every single day. Like, uh,
Something like, I think it's like 32 people a day move here or something like that.
which sounds like a small number until you do start to
You
go
realize it's
looking.
every
Yeah,
day.
every day, literally. Um, so in some way, it does address that there's a housing issue,
Yeah.
right? Uh, but I don't know. Do you think this is the right way to go about it for the state?
I don't know. Part of me, um, part of me that doesn't want to pay taxes is like, they're just classifying it as a home so that you can pay taxes on it at a higher rate than you are on car taxes or registration or any of that. But then the other part of me is like, well, maybe it will make it more accessible for people to engage in tiny house living, because I also know, like, I tiny house living comes up in my feed all the time, and it's like, this is illegal in a lot of places. So um, it this bill is both making an effort to normalize tiny house living and also probably get more money from people who are trying to tiny house live.
Yeah, right. Like if people are going to be tiny housing living, might as well tax them and figure out how you can do that. Yeah.
Exactly.
So yeah,
Yeah.
if you have a tiny house that's a car, so now you're looking at paying your car insurance. Now you also got to pay home insurance on it. Now you also got to
Yeah.
pay tax on your car and your yeah,
Exactly.
and cars. It just depreciates. So you just have
I always say follow the money.
yeah. So that is an interesting
um,
point.
our next more happy note that we can end on is the Oscars.
Yes.
We actually remembered the happy note this time.
Yeah. No.
Um,
Well, did you
I
watch the Oscars?
I did not watch them.
Okay.
Um,
Conan hosted them. Conan O'Brien, and I love Conan O'Brien. Um, and we they had a lot of the same movies that were kind of nominated for some of the big
mhm.
things like Best Picture, and you put Best Actor and Actress. So um, I also always love like is it Best Costume Design?
Yes.
Yes. So all of those, it was all the same. We had these great movies come out. Wicked, um,
Yes.
Anora was one that was repeated a lot too. The Brutalist, Conclave, and Amelia Perez was also one that was kind of
Yeah.
up there in the repeated.
Hmm.
But have you watched the Best Picture? Who
I have
is
not, but I
right?
remember seeing a preview for it, and I totally forgot that it was coming out or existed in any kind of way. But now that I've like written this little excerpt on it, I was like, oh, I actually think that I want to watch this movie now.
Yeah.
But Best Picture was won by Anora. And the synopsis of Anora, if you don't know already, is, I got this from imdb.com. A young escort from Brooklyn meets and impulsively marries the son of a Russian oligarch. Once the news reaches Russia, her fairy tale is threatened as his parents set out for New York and to get the marriage annulled. It sounds very
It
dramatic.
does. It does. And I also like the
Um,
Best Actress.
Yes. So it was also won or nominated for Best Actress, Best Director, Best Original Screenplay, Best Editing, and Best Supporting Actor.
Yes.
And it had a bunch of actors and actresses in it that I had never
Hmm.
known before. So I think that's pretty cool that you don't have to have like a winning name to win a best picture.
Yeah, and Best Actress. The girl who won Best Actress, I want to say it was one of her first roles, and she won for her role in Honora. Um,
Yeah.
so I thought that was pretty awesome. A lot of people got upset that the girl, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on her name.
Who won a Nora?
No, no, no. Who was also nominated for Best Actress? She's older. She was in she in Friends. Here, I have it on my threads. Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh!
um,
I can't.
Jennifer
It,
Aniston? I
no,
don't
no, no,
know.
no, no.
She's in Friends.
Um. Oh, Demi Moore.
Oh, okay.
Was
Yeah.
Demi Moore in Friends?
No. But she was married to Ashton Kutcher.
Okay, Demi Moore in her role because she's older and she didn't win Best Actress, and so people were upset.
Yeah.
Um.
Well, she's been around for a long time and has a well known name.
But I don't think she's won any Oscars,
Yeah.
and so
I don't know if she has.
and the Substance. She was in the Substance. Um, and I guess the point of that movie, I haven't watched the movie, is basically this actress who is getting older and it just isn't getting any roles. And they thought it was, ironic that she lost to a new, young.
A young artist. Yeah. That is ironic.
So, um,
Well, Best Actor was won by Adrian Brody for The Brutalist.
and
And The Brutalist won or was nominated for Best Actor, Best Cinematography, Best Original Score, Best Picture, Best Supporting Actress, Best Director, Best Original Screenplay, Best Supporting Actor, Best Production Design, and Best Film Editing. Was there one that The Brutalist did not get nominated or win?
well, the movie looks like it's really good. And
Yeah.
whenever you also see Conclave was just like this too. I want to say like best cinematography, best original score. Like they had a lot of these were all these movies were all next to each other. Um, and once you watch the movies, you're kind of like, oh my gosh, yeah, this was a. I feel like this was a very like neck to neck type of Oscar. And then it doesn't make it any easier that Wicked was part of it
Yeah.
because
Yeah, of course.
production design.
Yeah. You got to give it to Wicked for production design.
You literally do. But then whenever you
They planted like 5 million tulips or something.
exactly like it's basically like they hand painted everything and made a new Star Wars. It was
Yeah.
so that's what I was kind of like. This isn't fair. They're all going up against Wicked costume design too, and like all these people, you could tell they worked their butts off doing
Yeah.
what they do because all these movies are amazing. They're amazing to watch. They're beautiful to watch. And it's just like, well, Wicked got that one. Wicked got that one. um,
Yeah.
it was,
But Honora and The Brutalist did really well too. So,
and also for the Oscars, it was actually live streamed on Hulu,
hmm
and it ended up going over time, so people did not get to see who won Best Actress because it
ah,
cut off right then.
oh no, that's too bad.
Yep, and Hulu was like, "It's over, goodbye," and
Wow.
yeah.
Somebody's gonna get a new contract written up
It's
for the next
because
time that happens.
Adrian Brody took like a 20-minute long thank you. Like it was way too long. They didn't play the music on the man. You're watching this, you're like, play the music, play the music. Anyway.
That's awesome. The last little bit that I wrote is I said, I saw the same title repeated, and I've never been an avid Oscar follower, but I think that's pretty standard. It just seemed like there was only 5 movies, which led me to look up how you get nominated for an award. And to be nominated for an award, the production of the movie needs to be in the Academy of Awards and to be nominated by the members of the Academy. So that's how it happens. And then I thought, the Google that I did earlier told me that streaming was not included in the awards, and then we researched it a little more. And around the pandemic, they started including streaming movies in there more often because that's the way we're moving to. So
Yeah. Yeah, so I think that that's awesome. It gives it, I think that movies that are published on Netflix, Hulu, wherever else on streaming, um, should have the same opportunities as these big guys.
especially Apple, I feel like everything made on Apple is like the most beautiful thing I've ever seen made.
I got rid of my Apple account and I've been wanting to get it back again. I really love Cherry, the Tom Holland
I
movie.
didn't watch that one.
You need to watch that one.
I watched the movie I watched on Apple that I like every time I'm like, oh, Apple is so good, is Coda.
Okay, I've watched parts of Coda, but I wasn't focusing. That's one has Justin Timberlake in it too, right?
I don't think so.
Never mind.
That's about the deaf girl.
Thinking of a different movie.
Yeah, okay. And then I just finished Severance, like season 2, and I don't even know what's going on in that show.
Was it good?
Yeah, it's a really good show. It's very beautifully made. Um, it's just I can't really tell you what it's about because I don't really know. It's one of those shows that you're like, I still don't know what's going on.
That drives me crazy.
Hmm. But I've watched 2 seasons of it, and it's amazing.
Well, that's everything that we've got on the news this week and for this month.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on today. I was so excited to see you.
Yeah, as I am a new mom, so that is why
Yeah.
I'm looking a little tough in this shirt I've been in all day.
Well, I didn't think tough whenever I saw you. I thought, "Oh yay, I'm so excited to see you and I'm so grateful that you're here."
Thank you. And I hope everyone enjoyed this episode. Let us know what you guys think. If you guys think, if you guys have any suggestions on some news matters that you think we should cover about next, let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything else you wanted to say that you didn't get to say?
Um, no, I think we did a pretty good job this time getting everything in order.
Yeah, we did awesome. Well, at least I think we did. Maybe our listeners don't. Maybe I should let them decide. Okay, well, thanks for listening, and thanks for tuning into our news program. Talk to you later. Love you. Bye.